In this lecture, we're going to be looking at the subdivision surface modifier. We're going to be able to use it to create smoother geometry. We're going to be looking at the difference between the modifier and the subdivide tool. We're going to go over again why you should avoid overusing subdivision surface. And we're going to look at how we can prevent unwanted curves. And then we're going to give you a challenge. So let's go in to Blender. So we already know that by pressing Tab to go into edit mode and then pressing the W key to bring up the specials menu, we can select the subdivide tool, and this can subdivide our cube up as many times as we want without changing the actual shape. However, there's a second alternative to subdivision. We can use a modifier. So let's bring out our properties panel, go to the modifiers tab, add a modifier, and this time we're going to click subdivision surface. Now watch what happens when I click subdivision surface. Very interesting. So what's happened here is we've got the basic shape and we can actually select the cube's geometry as it was before. So it's still got the same geometry shape. However, interestingly enough, the object itself looks very different. It looks a lot more circular, with a lot more edges and a lot more vertices. The strange thing here is that if we look up here at the top, we can see that we still have 8 vertices as we would with a normal cube. So basically, the subdivision surface modifier increases the smoothness and geometry or visual geometry of our mesh without actually changing the mesh structure itself. We can increase the number of subdivisions that we can perform. So I can increase to 2, 3, 4, and you notice that this is actually a much quicker way of creating a ball out of a cube. And we can go up to 6 in terms of the subdivision surface modifier, mainly because if we have a look, we can see that that is a lot of geometry, and that is an extremely smooth ball that we've created from our cube. If we go back to 1, so we've got a subdivision surface modifier, but what if we don't want it to be like this? What if we don't want it to be like a ball? What if we just want to make some curved edges out of our cube? Well, the way to do that is by just using the loop, cut and slide tool. So I'm going to deselect, press Ctrl R, hover over, left click, and as soon as I left click, I haven't confirmed it yet, but straight away the shape of our object has changed significantly. So I can drag this up and we can just see how this changes our object. So say if I wanted to bring it up to the top and then once more to the bottom, and as we pan around we can see we have a very interesting object. We can do the same on multiple planes of subdivision, and in fact we could even recreate our entire cube by adding more subdivisions here. I can create the smooth cube that I have been looking for. Once I'm happy with what I'm seeing, I can click apply. Oh, once again, don't forget, you cannot be in edit mode. Press tab to go into objects mode, click apply, and we have our mesh. We have our cube with much more curvy edges. If we go into edit mode, we can actually see now that that surface has been applied, and so has the geometry. So in much the same way as the modifier doesn't actually take full effect until you've applied it, the same applies for the modifier of subdivision surface. We can edit the modifier and how it works in this panel here, and once we apply it, that's when the geometry is added. So that's the subdivision surface modifier. It's actually very different in terms of how it can be used to the subdivide tool. So now let's make a challenge out of this. I want you to subdivide your custom object or car. So for example, if you created your blocky car, which I'm sure many of you would have done using things like extrusions, etc. This is a great opportunity for you to add more natural, more curved edges to your car's structure. For any parts of your object where you want to sharpen your edges, don't forget you can use loop cuts to do so. Thanks guys, post your creations in the discussions and I will see you in the next lecture.